Why would you send the fearful part of you to go and do a business negotiation? You know, that little boy that finished drawing something and comes to show it to daddy and mommy, but daddy and mommy were having an argument at that point. And then they say, just go away. We're talking. The child feels hurt in that moment and feels rejected. And the brain goes, drawing pain is pain, rejection. Program sealed. We'll become an adult that would struggle to show people their work. This is why change is difficult, because when you want to change something, the brain goes, we're not familiar with this. But when you keep practicing the new behavior, getting transformed by the renewal of your mind, so by changing what you do. But one thing I said to this person that they said made all the difference, I said, look, the other person at the other end of this interview is also a human who, like you, is wondering, what does this person think about me? I goes, I say, yeah, that human that's going to interview you also uses the toilet and it smells. I'm like, I say, yeah. When you break it down to that, how do you still feel talking to another person that's just like you? And that made a difference here. I am a believer in one thing at a time, but I don't agree that it works for everybody. Basically, grow the hell up and start taking charge and responsibility for what needs to happen.
Wow.
Even till now, we've not even done the money. Let's not go there.
Well, let me thank you so much for going so deep into so many of these things, because I was going to ask you the next question, if we can train our minds to be more productive, but you've answered a lot of that already in your answer. So unless you want to add something to that. Okay.
In the mind now, so I've listed some kind of steps, a number of stuff, right? Practicing that is the training, and remember, what the brain calls safe is what it's familiar with, and familiarity comes from repetition. Because this thing now, although it looks like just something here, you can't see it too closely, but there are all these connections, neural wires, the wirings. Think of the electric cables delivering power, as it were. And the way it works in the brain is the neurons that fire together wire together, and the more data goes through it, the stronger it becomes, and becomes the one to prioritize. It defaults to that. So this is why change is difficult, because when you want to change something, the brain goes, we're not familiar with this. But when you keep practicing the new behavior, getting transformed by the renewal of your mind, so by changing what you do and what you focus on internally, then you strengthen a new neural pathway and the other one will atrophy. Then there's a behavioral change. So if you want to train yourself to be more productive, you've got to watch a number of things. First of all, that feeling I say, get familiar with and look for it. Make it familiar. And even as simple as taking a few minutes every day to just get back to the end of that goal. Yeah, I already did this, and this is how it felt, and this is how it feels. That gets your brain, you're strengthening that connection right there. Celebrating little wins. So when you take that little step, I opened the Word document, stare at it, close, and I said, at least I opened it today. Your brain gives you a little dopamine hit. That's a reward. When that immediate next step, no matter how tiny it is, take it and say, oh, I did it. Now you're productive because you achieved that. You go on to the next one. So your brain gets used to the fact that I'm a productive person, because it's actually an identity. You're changing your identity from someone who wants to be productive to a productive person.
Someone who is.
So, and when you say I am XYZ, an identity, you're not talking about a number of things, mental processing, like mindset and so on. So how does a productive person think? What are their predominant thoughts? What is their approach to resistance or change in direction and so on? Practice those. So I'm a productive person. I achieve what I say I will achieve because I focus on the immediate next step, because that's all that is important in every single moment. Now, there's no resistance to this. The brain gets it. It makes sense. You practice that. Some visualization, obviously, yes. Looking for those little wins and getting used to that. would also help. And now the thing I like to talk a lot about when I say know yourself, just know yourself. Man, know yourself. Man, woman, know yourself. What are your strengths? What are your weaknesses? What are your proclivities and your tendencies, your fantasies? What are your fears? What are your triggers? What are your default reactions? Know those. A little bit like you have 9 dogs, different breeds, Rottweilers, Alsatian, Ekuke, Chihuahua, whatever. Know them. They behave differently. So, based on that, you now know when you're acting from which part of you. It's almost like someone conducting a choir and you're bringing in the parts at different times. You want harmony, right? You don't want discordant stuff. So why would you send the fearful part of you to go and do a business negotiation? But you wouldn't know that if you are not familiar with your parts. If you're judging them and you're hating yourself for this, for that, there's already Third World War going on inside of you that is going to get in the way of that thing you want to do. But when you're familiar with these parts of yourself, and there are more, but your strengths are not just one, so there are different parts of you that would exhibit strength. Your weaknesses is not just one. There are different parts of you that exhibit different weaknesses. So just know them. Don't judge them. Don't try to change them. The eye can never hear, no matter how you try. The nose can never see. So there's no point trying to make your fearful part a bold part. It won't work. There's no up without a down. They exist together. So if there was no fearful part of you, there won't be a confident, bold part of you. They exist together. Now your job is to know them and know all the different versions of them in between. Know your tendencies. What's your tendencies with money? If you have money, a lump of money now comes. What's your tendency with it? Is it to consume? Is it to buy the immediate thing you've been thinking about? What is it? Don't judge it. Know it. And then when you know these different parts of you, then start looking at who is best suited for what. So in this podcast now, the parts of me that are attending this meeting now are the articulate part, the fun part, the thinking part, the caring part. We're all here, right? Now there's a part of me that does not like to look at a camera or to talk to anybody. There's a part of me that, it's like, everybody leave me alone. Those parts are chilling in one corner. Okay, we know what part to send out when. So for that thing you want to be productive about, right? If you want, recruit your accountable part to keep you accountable. But if you bring your critical part, it will criticize you and your brain will see stress there. So know yourself. What are my triggers? What are my default responses to those triggers? Know it. Next level will be, why does that trigger me? When that happens, what does it mean to me that triggers me? Now that's where the real power comes. Every experience comes from meaning. When you change the meaning you give to it, you change the experience of it. A common example is you come into the house and your wife says, "See you, big head," and the little boy next door, the 9-year-old boy next door that you caught maybe sagging his trouser, and say, "Come on, wear that trouser," and he goes, "Big head." Your reaction is totally different. Same word to the same person. Why? The meaning. Okay, so someone was preparing for an interview and spoke to me and said, "I'm just so stressed about this, I'm scared, blah blah blah." So we started going into what it was about. We got to it in the end, but one thing I said to this person that they said made all the difference, I said, "Look, the other person at the other end of this interview is also a human who, like you, is wondering, what does this person think about me? Is this that?" I go, I say, "Yeah." And if you don't believe me, well, that human that's going to interview you also uses the toilet and it smells. When they wake up in the morning, they are groggy and their mouth also stinks, I say, "Yeah." So when you break it down to that, how do you still feel talking to another person that's just like you? And that made a difference here. Where am I going? The meaning, changing the meaning and the connotation changed the experience. Because when you change the meaning, this is where our logical brain helps us. By changing the meaning of stuff, this guy goes, oh, okay, new memory, all right, new meaning. You know, we don't try to run away from it. Acknowledge, oh, this is what this means to me. You know, that little boy that finished scribbling something, drawing something, and comes to show it to daddy and mommy, but daddy and mommy were having an argument at that point. And then they say, just go away, we're talking. The child feels hurt in that moment and feels rejected, and the brain goes, drawing pain is pain, rejection, program sealed. We'll become an adult that would struggle to show people their work. Or another that if you say, just give me a moment, will feel rejection and the pain of it. Yeah. Or one that may say, I'm bad at drawing. Well, people will always reject my work because the meaning has been formed. So as that adult, if you think of going to present your idea to somebody or being productive about something and you feel, no, they will reject me, no, it won't work. That trigger, by knowing that, you say, what does that mean for me? Where did I feel this the first time? Where did I learn to feel this way? That will take you to that little boy or little girl, you know, where the distortion in logic happened. So you can correct the meaning and say, as a 6-year-old whose daddy or mommy says, just go when I wanted to show something, it meant they didn't like me. That's how a child thinks. As a 32-year-old man, I now know that's not quite the case. Do you see the point? Then you update it and you say, yeah, I can understand why this feels this way. So the next time you get that feeling, you're like, no, I'm not 6 and it's not mommy and daddy trying to reject me. When they did that, it hurt, but it's okay this time. And then, so you send your older self, your 39 years self or 50 years or whatever, to do the job, not your 6-year-old self. Just because you are becoming familiar with your triggers and the meaning of those things without judging them. Okay, so these are the sort of ways you can train your brain to work differently with you. You use the word choose, I choose to, and so on. You notice that resistance and those triggers, and really just, first of all, let them be, notice them, then explore gently, and so on.
Okay. We are coming up on the 1 hour mark, but I want to ask for permission to ask one more question, to broach one more topic. Okay, from what you've shared, you've said a lot that has brought a lot of clarity to my mind when it comes to, because oftentimes as human beings, there are a lot of internal struggles that we don't understand. We don't understand where they are coming from, but I'm beginning to see that oftentimes the solution to your problem is in your past, but it's also in your present. It's in your ability to know where it came from and how it's still affecting you today, and to be able to move forward with that knowledge. But there's something else I want to touch on, talking on the topic of productivity. You're someone that I consider to be multi-talented. You know, you do a lot of things and you do a lot of things well. And I'm also someone who has been described as multi-talented. But oftentimes I've found out that is both a blessing and a curse if you don't know how to manage it properly. And when it comes to being productive as a multi-talented person, I have found that in my own experience, there's often a struggle that I have. I've had people give me advice, focus on one thing and just do that one thing until maybe that one thing becomes big, then you move to something else. But then it seems like there's an urgency in you to do all of these things at the same time, because you're having these ideas, you're having these things, and sometimes that can be bad for you. Sometimes you're able to, achieve breakthroughs as well. So especially for someone who is multi-talented, who is someone who has a lot of ideas and a lot of abilities in different areas, what advice will you give to that person to approach productivity in a way that doesn't harm them but helps them, progress?
I think I've answered the question already, actually.
Yes, you have actually.
The answer really is know yourself. So you see, you said something, and I watched how you said it. You said act with the urgency, and you leaned in and went and really pressed, and then so which kind of showed me that it's not just words. There's something underneath that. Well, this is the where you have to explore. What is the urgency about? That's number one. Number two, who declared it an urgency? So how did it become an urgency? And really look through it. Is it because I kept procrastinating it and now there's a deadline? Or is it because I strongly believe this will take me to the next level? Or is it because there's a voice in my head whispering others have done it, why are you wasting time? Or what?
There's a voice in your head telling you you're old, you're getting old.
And okay, let's work with that. You're getting old. Okay, whose voice is that? When was the first time you started hearing that voice? Where did you learn that that voice needs to be paid attention to in such a way as to pressure yourself? What does listening to that voice do for you? We explore. We go in a little bit more, right? So, because when you think about the word urgency and what it means to the brain, this is really urgent. The brain sees stress. There's a threat right there. It's urgent, so stress will come in. Well, if it's that urgent, your brain would neither easily want to keep you inactive, which is freeze, or overactive, which is overactive with other things, right? Which is a flee response. You're avoiding it, or you dive into it so much you're fighting with it almost. But just one step back. Say, okay, this is urgent. Why? Break it down and then choose to accept that or not. Once you make a choice to accept it, again, things relax. I am a believer in one thing at a time, but I don't agree that it works for everybody. Many times I do one thing at a time, many times I do more than one thing at a time. It goes back to what are your strengths. So my wife can do 15 things at a time. I can only do 3. Okay, and I know I've worked that out. So what are your strengths? Yeah. And then how are you managing your resources? And your key resource is you. There is no way. So the body is a finite energy system. To put this in context to a Nigerian audience, think about buying 5 liters of petrol for your generator. You know it will run out at a certain point. Therefore, you probably won't switch it on all day. Yeah. You switch it on when you need it because you're managing that energy resource properly. The same with your car, the same with your food. But guess where we don't give a damn about is really usually us. Well, you are your key resource, which comes in what you eat, what you put inside of you, determines how productive you can be. When you put it in, has an effect on how productive you can be. Because you see, that piece of bread you put in your mouth, give it a few hours, a miracle happens that turns that piece of bread into you. Okay? And whatever that piece of bread brings with it becomes part of your energy configuration. So if you go and eat all sorts of unhealthy stuff and dump yourself with that, rubbish in, rubbish out, little wonder you're groggy and your brain, there's no much clarity there. If your internal environment is filled with all sorts of dangerous and unfriendly and unhelpful inner talk, again, it's a toxic environment. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm rubbish, I never achieve anything, I just like wasting time, why am I just like this, why don't I even focus, why don't all those things you're creating stress inside your body because your brain thinks that something inside you is about to eat you and starts to react with stress. And that stress response, let's break it down, is a configuration, starting configuration of chemicals in your body. The body is a pharmaceutical. So adrenaline, cortisol, norepinephrine, glutamine, their levels will just rise above homeostasis, basically. So your body is already killing itself just because it's trying to survive through poisoning itself. just because of that toxicity. So you're going to have some clarity. At least speak nicely to yourself. Watch what goes into you. Look after your body. Do you exercise? Do you allow your body to breathe in some fresher air and things like that? And the biggest one is sleep. You cannot be productive if you don't sleep well. Period. Sleep is the biggest superpower or super food you can give yourself, because when you're sleeping, a number of things happen.
My wife is nodding now because she's the biggest sleeper in the family. She's nodding and giving you a thumbs up.
Sleep is important. Your brain does a lot of things while you sleep. It actually problem solves while you sleep and filters things, and the cells repair, releasing more and more stuff that you need to achieve what you want to achieve. And we can talk about sleep another time if you want, but it's important these things happen as ways to manage your productivity. So to answer that question in summary is know yourself and make sure you're playing to your strength. If you are not someone that can multitask effectively, why would you do that and expect to succeed? And before you do that, have you prioritized? Why is this more important than that, and that more important than that? According to you, not according to anyone else. And you work those out. And then, are you being realistic about how much time you can use to achieve this? So remember, there was a conversation you and I had about setting up for the podcast where you listed something I said to you, well, I can't meet up with this. Sorry. Period. There's no need to feel horrible about it. Say, oh, no, he's been trying to get me, and now I can't do this. And now, no, that's my business. And if that comes up, fine. I give myself space to feel that. But that does not mean I must act on it. Otherwise, I'm setting myself up to fail. Okay, so yeah, this is how planning comes. Well, the thing comes when we come to planning. One thing I do that helps me, and I share it with people, is schedule play time. Many times people don't schedule play time or downtime. They think it's sort of like a reward for hard work. No. No. How do children learn? Through play. And the amount of things you learned in the first 7 years of your life, you probably wouldn't learn half of that the rest of your life. In the first 7 years of your life, you mastered a language or two just by hearing people. You learned how to move thousands of muscles in your body to walk, to grasp, to throw. You started learning meanings of things. Also, so much learning.
True.
Not by sitting in a class. A lot of it is through play. So, because when we are playing, the brain is having fun. There's a lot of dopamine and serotonin and all of those things coming in there. That's when the cells are in the thriving mode. And so more information is being taken in. Like that. And it feels good. And when it feels good, the brain goes, we're safe, and you keep learning. So it's almost like, for me, my playtime is so important that the work has got to prove to me why I need to pay attention to it. do you see what's there? So as a result of that, my brain doesn't feel like constricted. Something is happening. No, I need to breathe. No. I schedule my playtime. I also schedule my worry time. And which means if it is not in the worry time, we're not worrying about it. So when worry comes and says, okay, we worry about this in a worry time.
We'll worry about it later.
Yeah, there's a worry time, and the worry time is usually 1 hour. These days it's come down to 25 minutes. So if you can't fit into the 25 minutes worry time today, it has to be the worry time another time. If we have to worry about it, it means we're not solving it. If we're not solving it, it doesn't need to clutter the time for other things.
True.
But because I know I can come back to it to worry about it, my brain lets me carry on with stuff. Okay, just like I have my pity party schedule as well. So if something goes in a way that I don't like or anything, I have my pity party, my 10 minutes pity party. It can't be more than 10 minutes. Okay, or maybe my wife and I have an argument or whatever. I have my pity party. With my wife, it's 5 minutes pity party. I must have my pity party, and where I go like, I didn't like that. That didn't feel good. It was upset. You. No, I don't lock it in. Feel it. Express it to yourself. You know, you deserve a little pity party for those. Because see, your actual children are all the different versions of you. So I don't know how old you are now, but let's say for someone who's, let's say, 33, you have 32 versions of you inside you. And some of those 32 versions are toddlers, babies, kids, people that can't really reason. Some are adolescents, some are teenagers who they are not into future thinking. Then there are young adults, and then there are proper mature adults. You must recognize all of them. You must know who is speaking at what time, at what point. So I'm having an argument with my wife. Maybe the 5-year-old version of me just knows that anybody that is a wife or a mommy, a wife should behave like a mommy. So he's expecting some comforting from his mommy. No, that's my wife, not your mommy. But when she hasn't done something that is that comforting, he may whinge. Well, I need to give him time to whinge. I say, I get you. It's okay. That's not your mommy. Should we call your mommy? She's still alive. You know, for that kind of thing. So yeah, start your schedule with the things that are important to you, not the work. Do the things that you will get into quite easily. If you like watching movies, schedule movie time. Box it in. Personal story here. A lot of my friends will tell you stuff when I tell them there are certain hours in the day they cannot ring me. I will not answer the phone. Well, I think I've told you that before, where it's like this family time.
Yeah,
between this time and that time, I am not going to take any call. Even if it will bring me millions of pounds, I will not take it. It's family time. End of story. That time is boxed. And if I'm in a work meeting and it gets to a certain hour, I'll say to them, regardless of who it is, I need to go now because I have to pick up my children from school. And when I pick them up from school, I don't take a phone call. We chat in the car, we talk. If I'm on a phone call, I'm not talking to them. So what is important is because it's important to me. If it's not important to you, don't do it. Do what is important to you. There's something I call my me time. It's very important to me. So I have a schedule for my me time. And my me time is, those that know me from ages ago know how I like to just sit and ponder. So my me time is exactly for that. And I schedule it. And my me time is I will have my me time. So the concept of being disciplined really is just know what's important and make it important. Treat it like it's important. Others won't make it important for you. You make it important for you. Basically, grow the hell up and start taking charge and responsibility for what needs to happen.
Wow. Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. I'm really grateful that you've taken so much time to share so extensively about a variety of, we've actually covered 5 podcasts right here in this short 1 hour, about 1 hour 20 minutes. Thank you so much for sharing so freely. I have learned so much from this. One of the things that has really hit me personally is I choose to. It's so revolutionary for me because I just began identifying so many areas in my life where I've been stressing myself because of the way I phrased the demand on myself. You know, it wasn't a choice, it was an external force upon myself, and that is the reason why I've been constricted in all those areas. It's just been so revolutionary, so many aspects of this podcast, and we are so
Let me just say, sorry if you don't mind, now that choose to, right? So you can choose to do, and you can also choose not to do.
True.
Exercise that choice. You can choose to stop what you started. Maturity is knowing that, you know what, I thought this was going to be this, but it's not it. I'm going to stop it now. I choose to stop.
And don't feel guilty about stopping it.
Because it's a choice. You know, you've got to weigh that thing against where you started each time. Is it still feasible? Is it still that much of a priority and so on? Okay, I'll shut up now.
I wish you don't have to shut up. I wish we can go for 3 hours. But I have to let you go now. Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast. And I believe, you know, in a short time, I'll have you on again to discuss so many other things. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Let's give him a very big, warm thank you. Thank you so much, Uncle Ben. We appreciate it. Yeah, so thank you so much, guys. I know you've had a very wonderful time talking about the science of productivity. We've learned so much about how our brain functions. We've learned so much about how our minds function. We've learned so much about how our experiences shape our current outcomes. And I know you've been blessed and you've been encouraged and you've been challenged by the things that you've heard. Like I always say on this podcast, we've said so much, and I don't know if it makes sense to you. What do we know? We're just saying. Until the next time I see you on the Just Saying podcast, I remain your friend, your brother, Sir Victory, and I'll see you again next time.